Hi everyone, welcome back to Law Study Kit. Today I'd like to continue with my last video where I was talking about the recent changes to the NCA policy, and I'd like to talk about the second change, which was mode of study, and explain to you what that really means and if that affects you in any way or not. So if you're interested, keep watching. So like I mentioned last time, it's a good idea to read the policy, and I'm going to be referring to the specific sections in the policy. So if you're watching this video, you can go back and look at those specific sections to make sense of whatever I'm saying today. So subsection 7 of the latest NCA policy talks about mode of study. Now, when we talk about mode of study, I'd like to again take a step back and explain to you what it really means. So when the NCA is assessing your law degree, one of the requirements that they take a look at is mode of study. So what do they mean by mode of study? It means whether you had studied in person, whether you studied online, whether your degree was distance learning. So sometimes the NCA will ask you to take courses at a Canadian law school if, for example, your degree was distance learning. So in the new policy, they're explaining what mode of study means and what type of arrangements are acceptable and what type of arrangements are not acceptable. So when the NCA is assessing your mode of study, the preference is obviously that you studied in class and you took all your courses in person. If for some reason your law degree was not in person, then the requirement is that 2 out of the 3 years can be online, but it just can't be regular online learning. It has to satisfy an element of interactive online learning. And the policy really defines what an interactive online learning means. So just to sum up and not confuse everyone here. So if your law degree is 3 years, 1 year has to be in person. The remaining 2 years can be online, but they have to be interactive online learning. And if they're not in interactive online learning, then your law degree is distance learning, which you have to take in-person classes at a Canadian law school. Okay. Now, what do I mean by interactive online learning? So subsection 7 again defines what an interactive online learning means. And to sum up, it's an environment where a student develops all the legal problem-solving skills, legal writing skills. They give you like an entire page of what interactive learning might mean. For example, there's a professor who needs to design the course. The students are given enough opportunity to provide feedback. The students have enough opportunity to ask questions and just go through the policy. But the gist of it is that you are given enough opportunity to kind of have a learning environment where the professors and the students are interacting with each other a lot. But at the end of the day, the discretion is with the sole director, the executive director of the NCA. They will look at the program and see if the online part was interactive learning or not, and it's the executive director's discretion whether they consider it interactive learning or not. And so some of the factors that the executive director is going to look into is the number of hours that you had those sessions, the length of the program, and different types of feedback or your assessments, and just look at the whole program to see if it does qualify as an interactive learning setup. And if unfortunately it does not, then you might then just be considered that your law degree is distance learning. And if your law degree is distance learning, then the NCA will give you at least 2 years of education at a Canadian law school, But again, it's at the discretion of the director, and if you're able to convince them otherwise, then they might waive that off. But again, just read the policy and see what the policy actually says. The last thing that I wanted to point out, which was very interesting to me, is that if for some reason, you're supposed to take 2 years of courses at a Canadian law school, and because, for example, due to COVID, you were not able to take them, there were no in-person classes, you might be told to just take the NCA exams instead. So there is a specific subsection which talks about that. And so if for some reason, because of COVID, the classes are online, then you might just have to take NCA courses. So there's a little bit of flexibility if in this specific section, in terms of, they will take a look at your degree and see if it really fulfills the interactive learning requirement. If it does not, then it's distance learning. And then if it's distance learning, then you might have to take courses in class. So yeah, I mean, these changes I feel like were necessary because of COVID, and now online learning has become a thing. And especially, like, even not everybody's working online, and a lot of things are online. So I feel like it's good on NCA's part to actually move from like a robust criteria to something that's more present and more innovative. Take a look at the policy, read it yourself. It will give you, an idea in terms of what the NCA is actually looking into, and maybe you can, when you do apply for an assessment, you can use the same wordings and kind of convince them that your online learning was interactive. Thanks guys for watching. These were the 2 major changes that I wanted to talk about. The other one, like I mentioned, regarding the NCA appeal policy, I feel like you can just read it. It's not something too technical. It's more of like the number of days that you have to appeal the assessment and that kind of stuff. So feel free to give it a read. And I hope that this was helpful, and I'll see you in my next video.